Aries, stop scrolling for a moment, because if you have been feeling unusually impatient, emotionally triggered, restless, disconnected, or like something is about to happen, but you cannot explain what it is, there may be a reason. August 10th and 11th are not about forcing an outcome. They are about watching how you respond before the next chapter begins. And here is the part you need to hear. The universe may not be testing your strength right now. It may be testing your reaction, because anyone can feel powerful when everything is going their way. But can you stay powerful when something disappoints you? Can you remain calm when someone ignores you? Can you trust yourself when the answer does not arrive immediately? Can you walk away from what is no longer aligned without chasing it one more time? That is where your real transformation begins. And Aries, there is something approaching that makes this timing even more significant. A total solar eclipse is coming on August 12th, 2026, creating a major astronomical moment across parts of the Northern Hemisphere. Spiritually, we can use the days before an eclipse as a powerful metaphor. The old chapter is losing its grip before the new one becomes visible. And August 10th to 11th may feel like that invisible doorway. So stay with me until the end, because I am going to reveal the 5 reactions Aries must avoid right now, and the one reaction that can completely change the way you enter this next chapter. Aries. August 10th and 11th may feel strangely intense, and there is a reason you're noticing it. Something is shifting beneath the surface. But before the next chapter opens, you're being tested on one thing: your reaction. A message, a delay, a sudden change, or even someone from your past could trigger you. But what happens next depends on whether you react from your old self or respond as the new version of you. Stay until the end, because the final sign may reveal exactly what this cosmic shift is preparing you for. 1. Why everything feels more intense. Aries, you are naturally a sign of action. You move, you decide, you respond. You do not like sitting around wondering what comes next. But what if the lesson right now is not about moving? What if the lesson is about waiting without losing yourself? That is uncomfortable for Aries. You may notice little things suddenly irritating you. A delayed message, someone changing their attitude, a plan falling apart, an unexpected expense, a person becoming distant, a door that seemed open suddenly closing. And your first instinct may be, I need to fix this. But August 10th to 11th asks you to pause, because not every problem is an invitation to intervene. Some problems are simply information. Let that sink in. Sometimes the universe does not remove something because you are being punished. It removes something because you have already outgrown the version of yourself that needed it. And that is why your reaction matters. 2. The first test. Something may not go your way. Aries, your first test may be something very simple. Something does not happen when you expect it to. You may feel like saying, fine, if they don't want me, I don't want them. But be careful. There is a difference between self-respect and emotional reaction. Self-respect says, I know my value so I do not have to chase. Reaction says, I will leave first so I cannot be rejected. Those two energies may look similar from the outside, but they are completely different inside. One comes from confidence, the other comes from fear. And this is where the universe may be asking you, are you responding from your healed self or your triggered self? That question can change everything. Before you send that message, before you block someone, before you make a sudden decision, before you quit, before you tell yourself that nothing is working, take one breath and ask, would I still choose this if I were completely calm? If the answer is yes, move forward. If the answer is no, wait. Because sometimes your breakthrough is not delayed. Your reaction is simply being refined. 3. The second test. Someone may trigger the old you. This one is important. Someone from your past or someone who carries familiar energy may trigger something inside you. Maybe they say something disrespectful. Maybe they underestimate you. Maybe they suddenly appear again. Maybe they remind you of a version of yourself you thought you had already healed. And suddenly, you feel the old anger, the old need to prove yourself, the old desire to make them understand what they lost. Aries, listen carefully. You do not need to prove your evolution to someone who benefited from your old version. Let them misunderstand you. Let them have their opinion. Let them remember you incorrectly. You are not required to return to an old battlefield just because someone calls your name. Your silence can be growth. Your distance can be growth. Your lack of reaction can be growth. And sometimes the most powerful response is not revenge. It is becoming so emotionally free that the situation no longer controls your mood. That is real power. 4. The third test, the silence. Now we come to one of the hardest parts, silence. Aries, you may enter a strange period where you do not receive the confirmation you were expecting. No message, no opportunity, no obvious sign, no immediate answer. And your mind starts creating stories. Maybe it is not happening. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I should give up. But silence does not always mean rejection. Sometimes silence simply means you do not have enough information yet. And that is okay. You do not need to know the entire story to take the next step. Think about a sunrise. There is a moment before the sun appears when the sky is changing, but the sun itself is not visible yet. That does not mean nothing is happening. It means the transition is happening before the evidence arrives. That is the energy I want you to remember on August 10th and 11th. Do not confuse invisibility with inactivity. Something can be changing before you can see it. 5. The fourth test, the urge to go back here, is another powerful possibility. You may suddenly feel tempted to return to something you already outgrew. An old relationship, an old habit, an old identity, an old dream, an old environment. And you may think, maybe I gave up too soon. But Aries, ask yourself something deeper. Do you actually miss that situation? Or do you miss who you were when you believed it would finally become what you wanted? Those are not the same thing. Sometimes we do not want the old chapter back. We simply want the old chapter to have a different ending. But you cannot rewrite yesterday by living it again. Your next chapter requires space. And sometimes space feels like loneliness before it feels like freedom. That is why you cannot panic during the transition. The empty space is not necessarily a punishment. It can be preparation. Siggy, the fifth test, your impatience. This may be Aries' biggest test. Impatience. You want proof. You want movement. You want results. You want the universe to say, here, this is your sign. But what if the sign is your ability to remain grounded without one? What if your next level requires you to stop demanding immediate evidence? Because there is a dangerous habit many people develop. They trust the universe only when everything looks good. But spiritual maturity means learning to trust yourself even when the picture is incomplete. August 10th to 11th may feel like a threshold, not because everything must magically change overnight, but because you are being invited to change the way you interpret what happens. Instead of, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this showing me? Instead of, why did they leave? Ask, what did their departure reveal? Instead of, why hasn't it happened yet? Ask, what am I becoming while I wait? That shift in perspective can completely change your emotional reality. 7. The eclipse threshold. Now let's talk about the eclipse. The total solar eclipse occurs on August 12th, 2026, with totality visible along a path including Greenland, Iceland, Spain, and parts of northern Russia. Parts of North America will experience a partial eclipse. Astronomically, an eclipse is about the alignment of the Sun, Moon, and Earth. Spiritually, many people use eclipse symbolism to represent revelation, endings, redirection, and new beginnings. And for this Aries message, there is a beautiful metaphor. The light is not disappearing forever. It is temporarily being covered, and sometimes your life feels exactly like that. You look at your situation and think, where is my clarity? Where is my breakthrough? Where is my direction? But maybe your clarity is not gone. Maybe it is simply waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. That is why you should not make permanent decisions based on temporary darkness. Read that again. Do not make permanent decisions based on temporary darkness. 8. The reaction that changes everything. So what is the one reaction Aries needs? It is simple. Pause, observe, choose, not react, regret, repair, repeat. Instead, pause, observe, choose. Someone triggers you. Pause, observe what you are feeling. Then choose your response. Something goes wrong. Pause, observe what it is teaching you. Then choose your next move. Someone walks away. Pause, observe what their absence creates. Then choose whether they belong in your future. This is how you stop giving other people control over your nervous system. And this is how you enter your next chapter differently. Because your power is not proven by how loudly you react. Your power is proven by how consciously you respond. 9. What Aries should do on August 10th to 11th. For these 2 days, simplify your energy. You do not need to chase every opportunity. You do not need to respond to every message immediately. You do not need to explain yourself to everyone. You do not need to force closure. And you definitely do not need to prove your worth. Instead, do 3 things. First, protect your attention. Your attention is one of your most valuable resources. Do not give it to drama. Do not give it to endless overthinking. Do not give it to people who only appear when they need something. Second, watch your emotional patterns. Notice what triggers you. Notice what makes you anxious. Notice where you feel the need to control. Those reactions are giving you information. And third, choose one thing you are ready to release. It could be resentment, fear, an old attachment, the need for approval, the need to know exactly what happens next. Release does not mean you stop caring. Release means you stop carrying what was never meant to travel with you. Then, the sign you may notice. And Aries, there is one final sign I want you to watch for. You may suddenly feel less interested in something that used to consume you. That is important. You may look at a situation and think, why don't I feel the same anymore? Do not automatically assume something is wrong. Sometimes your emotional attachment disappears because your soul has already moved forward, even before your physical life catches up. You may become quieter, more selective, less reactive, more protective of your peace. And you may start realizing, I don't need everyone to understand me anymore. That is not weakness. That is maturity. That is the beginning of a different version of you. Aries, if August 10th and 11th feel strange, do not panic. If things feel slower than expected, do not panic. If someone reveals their true intentions, do not panic. If something falls apart, do not immediately assume your life is falling apart. Sometimes the thing collapsing is simply the thing you were never supposed to carry into your next chapter. And remember this, the eclipse does not need to create your transformation. It can simply become a symbol for something that was already happening inside you. You are learning to respond instead of react, to observe instead of chase, to release instead of control, to trust instead of constantly demand proof. And that is powerful. because the next chapter of your life does not need the old version of you. It needs the Aries who knows when to fight and when to walk away, the Aries who knows when to speak and when silence is stronger, the Aries who knows when to move and when waiting is actually preparation. So, before you leave this video, place your hand over your heart and say, I no longer react from fear. I respond from wisdom. I release what is no longer aligned with me. I trust what is unfolding. I do not chase what is meant to find me. I am ready for my next chapter, and I enter it with courage, clarity, and peace. Aries, your story is not ending. You are simply becoming unavailable for the version of the story that no longer matches who you are. And when the next door opens, you will understand why some of the old doors had to close. So breathe, stay grounded, watch your reactions, protect your peace. And remember, the test is not what happens to you. The test is who you become because of what happens. Your next chapter is closer than you think. And this time, you are not entering it as the same Aries who started the journey. You are entering it wiser, stronger, calmer, and ready. Aries, the shift begins within you.